Hello, Hallie. We're going to take a look at your aesthetics and control posting here. So let's jump right in. Taking a look at the overview, make sure we have everything sort of in there. To hold to not to hold. Looks like we have a few that are a little bit dark here. We'll address those in just a bit. You've got your half seconds there. That's all good. We've got how deep. Uh, Looks like the exposure's got a little bit better there. We got better control over that. We've got all of that there. That's good. Equivalent exposures, much better. Whoop, that one gave you a little bit of a trouble. And we got the better. So it looks like you got everything up there. They're all relatively consistently posted. You've got them all labeled, so that all looks good. So let's get into looking at the images themselves. All right. So clearly these are dark, right? This is called underexposed. I say this to just identify the language for you so that you can know what that is. Now, you can use dark imagery. I mean, low key imagery, there's nothing wrong with it. And as a matter of fact, these are really kind of almost on the borderline of, well, if they were a little bit brighter, just a little bit brighter, they could be read as low key images or just sort of dark images that are designed to be that way. They're not quite there. I mean, they're just too dark. The reason that they're just too dark is there's no sense of luminosity anywhere in them. If there was just a hint anywhere that there was some luminosity, you could get away with it. But just for all intents and purposes, these are just a bit too dark. What it means is that the camera was not able to compensate for the 1/25th of a second. And when you see that, you're taking a photograph and you've got it in your digital camera, you've got the viewfinder, it's showing you that it's dark. That should tell you, hey, something's wrong. I need to do something about it. Now, when your camera shows you that image and it's not able to compensate, that's just not something to overlook. What you want to be able to do is then decide, what do I need to do to fix it? Either I need to put more light on the scene in order to be able to use a 1/25th of a second, because that's a fast shutter speed. The camera clearly can't give you a wide open enough aperture to compensate for that. So you either have to hit it with more light, brighten the lights themselves, or increase the ISO. We're not increasing the ISO on this experiment, so your only other option was to increase the light. The hope was that you figure that out, right? I mean, these experiments, they're meant to help you problem solve, right? It isn't just about, oh, I'm going to give you all the answers and then, you just follow a recipe. There are problems that come up. There are challenges that come up that you have to kind of use your mind to think about, what am I going to fix? And when you see something dark like this, we want you to kind of logic it out sometimes. So you're not the only ones. A lot of students got into this little problem. That said, I really like what you're doing with the compositions and in the sort of cluster of bones. They're really quite interesting. Quite interesting. Now, here is an image that, let me back up here because it's kind of getting here we go. This is an image. This is what I'm talking about, where it's low key, but there's a luminosity there that allows it to be reading as justified. It's dark overall, right? It's dark overall, but the little bit of light, the little bit of highlight that's happening on there gives you the sense that it's supposed to be this way, that it's, yes, low key, it's dim, has almost this sort of a dark, somber feel to it, but it's meant to be that way because we do see this glimmer of luminosity to it. So therefore it appears to be correct. So that's what I was talking about when I said it low key, but it was missing the luminosity on the other one. This one has the luminosity going for it. So the hold or not hold, it's about discovering where movement happens and using it. And it looks like you're discovering that at a half a second. You're getting the blur. What can you do with that? It's a challenge. It's an aesthetic challenge. And is there something you can do to make that work? It's hard. It's a hard thing to face, but you play with it. This is what creativity is really all about. There isn't one answer we're looking for. This is really about, okay, so here's this thing. It's sort of unorthodox. I'm having you shoot where I know you can't hold the camera steady. So let's just go with it and see what you can come up with. And I think you did a pretty good job on this one because it's enough movement that it feels natural. I mean, it feels like you're trying to do it on purpose. Yet there's enough detail, there's enough information there that we can kind of identify what's happening on it. So let's go into the how deep. The how deep is really just an exploration of the phenomenon of depth of field. I wanted to share with everybody just what it does, so that f-stops, the apertures, cease to become just numbers on the camera, and they become an image. They become something visual for you. So as you're moving through it, what we should be seeing is it go from shallow to deep. And the reason I had you add the numbers there was because I wanted you to be able to identify what those apertures were. So here you have how deep set at 22, and we're looking at that one, right? And then you have how deep set at 5.6. You've got these reversed. This is not 5.6, this is 22. And this is 5.6. I can tell because this is out of focus and this is out of focus. You're saying it's 22. It's a common mistake. You just reversed them. That's all. So they're mislabeled. So we want to reverse those labels. You've got the wrong numbers on there. You've got the experiment correct. It looks like you've just got them mislabeled. So identify that the 22 is a smaller aperture, which renders the deep depth of field. So you just got those reversed. I don't know if you did that on the second one or not. Let's see. It looks like you did. Yeah, it looks like you've just got those in reverse. I don't know if that's something you're misunderstanding or if it's just a something that that you just accidentally mislabeled it. Let me know. I want to be sure that you understand that the higher the number, the smaller the hole, the deeper the depth of field. That's an important note for you to take because that's what I want you to learn. That's the part of the how deep that you really want to glean for this part of the experiment. Equivalent exposures, it's a math problem. You either got it right or you didn't get it right. We could see a subtle variation here in the exposures. Not so great that I think you got it wrong, but enough that from here to here that something's off. So let's take a look at what your solution is. So here we have F8 at a 60th. So then when we go to an eighth of a second, that is a 30th, a 15th, an eighth. So that is 3 steps. So then you go from an eighth to 11, 16, 22. So that is correct. So you go down, 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 longer, longer, longer. Okay, good. So then you go to 800 ISO, F320, that's not quite correct. So what happened here is you went to F32, you were at 200 and you went 400, 800, that's faster, right? So you went 400, 800, more sensitivity by 2 steps. Then you went from 22 to 32, right? 22 to 32, which is only 1 step. That's why the image got brighter. Do you see how the image got brighter? The reason it got brighter is because instead of going 2 steps smaller aperture, you went 1 step smaller aperture, even though you made the sensitivity 2 steps more sensitive. So you went from 200 to 800, which is 400, 800, which means you made it 1 step, 2 steps more sensitive. We needed to make it 1 step, 2 steps less intense light by making the aperture. But the aperture, you didn't have that, right? You only could go to 32. So we needed to also adjust the shutter speed, or just adjusted the shutter speed. So that's where you were off. And that's why the image is brighter. Okay. So you got the math problem a little bit wrong there. Your calculation wasn't quite right, but that's what we're doing here. We're learning, right? Did the same thing there. So you got the math problem by 1 step wrong. If this was like I said, if it was a math problem, you'd be 1 number off. You almost got it right, but it was close. All right. You know better. You really couldn't do anything wrong with better, except not be creative and not explore. So this is cool. I like what you're doing with this. Looks good. This one got a little bit dark, just like the other one where they're losing a little bit of luminosity. This one's right on the edge. These images here and here aren't something that you couldn't, you could definitely correct this kind of stuff in Photoshop. We're not doing Photoshop in the class, but these are the kind of images that aren't so dark that you couldn't really, they could definitely be usable in adjusting for Photoshop. Very interesting use of depth of field here, using the entire picture plane. These are definitely too dark. I hope you're identifying that these are too dark, that you're seeing, oh, hey, I'm putting them up there because I know I need some imagery, but they're definitely underexposed. We want to be able to identify this kind of stuff so that we're able to know that there's a certain formal soundness that photography sort of demands of itself. And if it's light, we need at least enough light or a certain balance of light for them to work in a certain way. So there we are. We might need to chat a little bit on that depth of field. We'll see where you are with the location imagery, follow the sun, to see if we really need to dive in and do any of the resubmissions, that kind of thing. I tend to not have you guys resubmit if you don't have to, but there may be some things you want to correct if we have to. So we will see you in the studio. All right. Bye-bye now.